FarmIQ's Essential Guide to Intensive Winter Grazing. Thank you for joining us this evening. I know this is a big warm welcome to many of our Canterbury farmers. If you're here, well done, and a big warm dry toasty welcome to you. Glad you could make it. Welcome to everybody else. We're going to talk about intensive winter grazing now and how you can manage that in FarmIQ. My name's Alison Worth. I think I've already said that. I'm the environment lead for FarmIQ, and it's my role here to make sure that we manage and build some really great kind of land and management and FEP functionality for you guys. So yes, and we've got Glenn who's sitting here as well. Glenn, hey, what's your role?
I'll just be sitting in the background answering any questions. So if you guys have any queries or bits you want us to go over during the webinar, just in the chat function on the right hand side, just post your question there. And you'll also see a couple handouts, and if you see up near the chat icon, you can click on handouts, and there's a couple there as well. So I'll have my camera off and I'll just be in the background chipping away. So yep.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Glenn. So no question is a silly question. Please fire them at us as we're moving through. We've got five or six very short slides. And we're also going to be giving you a demonstration in FarmIQ on how to do some of the functions that we're going to talk about tonight with relating to intensive winter grazing. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. And when I start demonstrating, I'll turn my camera off as well. So cool. Hi, Katie A. Welcome. Okay, so quick agenda. I've done the introduction. You know who we are, and we're fabulous people at FarmIQ. So and so is our support team. So if you have any struggles with using the functionality after this, then do give our support team a call. So what is IWG for short? Intensive winter grazing. Intensive winter grazing is the government's way of saying we need you to give us a plan on how you are going to manage your intensive winter grazing crops or your winter grazing crops so that we reduce the amount of pathogens going into our waterways. So it's all about freshwater quality and it's all about greenhouse gases as well, but mostly about water quality and animal welfare. Now I've taken the MFE's most important actions, and I've put them into a really cool handout for you, which you can download from this webinar as well. So MFE have come up with some really important actions that you can do on farm to make sure that you're compliant with intensive winter grazing rules that have been deferred for a year, but the government have given you an extra year we'll give farmers an extra year to get themselves sorted out, understand what the rules are and how they apply to their farming system, and put their best foot forward. So this is an opportunity, a year-long opportunity for you guys to really get yourself sorted, get yourself into the swing of things, and put your best foot forward when it comes to IWG. We're going to show you how in FarmIQ, and we're going to have a Q&A at the end as well if you feel that you have more questions to ask. But please do fire them at us throughout the webinar. We'll keep it very short and sweet. And yes, as I said, fire questions through. So, Right Honourable David Parker, Minister for the Environment, has said improvements. I can't move my thing here. Improvements in intensive winter grazing this season are required, and I've set my expectations, and I expect those expectations to be met for when the rules kick in next year. So now is a really good time for you guys to inform environmental policy by just doing some really good stuff on farm. And here's how FarmIQ can basically help you. But in short, an intensive winter grazing plan will be required and will become part of your farm plan, and integrated farm planning that's coming out from central government over the next couple of years as well. But if you are in an area like Southland or Canterbury or Waikato, then an intensive winter grazing plan will be required as part of a resource consent to be able to do what you do. So just have that in the back of your mind when you start planning winter crops. It's not onerous. An IWG plan is not an onerous thing, and it's not scary. And if you've already started your farm environment plan, then it's actually it's a really good way to slot in, get a really good feel for the capabilities of your farm. And it's also a really good way to get started if you haven't started your FEP. A small, short and sweet module, if you like. I don't know whether any of you do open water diving. I did many years ago, and an instructor said to me, plan your dive and dive your plan. And I thought that was quite relevant to intensive winter grazing. So if you have that in your mind, you can't go wrong. Okay, so next slide. Ministry for the Environment's most important IWG actions. So they've written 10 of them, and they expect you to understand them and work and provide evidence and be able to demonstrate that you know how to do these actions. So we'll start with one of the easiest ones. Identify CSAs and keep stock out of them. So a CSA is a critical source area, and a CSA is an area on your farm that poses the greatest risks to water quality. So it could be bare and open paddocks in that kind of interim when you sow them. It could be a swale running through the middle of your farm. It could be areas around troughs, feeding areas, runoff areas, and areas where it gets really wet. So they call them CSAs, critical source areas, because they do pose the greatest risk to water quality. So you need to demonstrate in your IWG plan how you're going to keep stock out of those CSAs. And I'll show you how to do that in FarmIQ in a minute on the map. Number 2 is baleage. Keep baleage and water troughs away from CSAs. So if you have a paddock where you feed out, don't feed your baleage near your water troughs where it's areas of kind of high camping and high traffic, if you like. Try and feed them in separate areas, and also keep them away from areas that might be pugged or waterlogged areas, and slightly boggy areas. Number 3 is have a minimum of a 5-meter buffer strip next to waterways. And the reason for that is that vegetation, whether it's pasture cover or riparian planting or what have you, in the event of rain, obviously there's quite a lot of that in winter, helps filter the sediment runoff, or trap the sediment runoff before it gets into waterways. So 5 meters, they believe, is enough to, if you get a heavy weather event, to trap all that soil and sediment that might be getting washed off during those weather events. Graze down the slope and back fence. This isn't for deer because deer behave in a different way, but so you're going to graze down the slope, and you're going to back fence behind your stock down that fence towards your buffer zone if you've got one, or towards the bottom of the slope. So your last break will be basically at the bottom of the slope. I'm going to show you how to map that in FarmIQ as well. And then number 5 is plan how you will manage adverse weather events this season. Oh gosh, I'm thinking about you guys in Canterbury at the moment, goodness. Because you definitely can't plan for that kind of adverse weather event. So this is a really easy part of IWG. If you're a FarmIQ customer, you can put that straight into your farm environment plan under the objectives and tasks, and I'll show you quickly how to do that as well. That's all really easy. Easy stuff, like, for instance, if you're going to, you can put in your plan things like, I'm going to move my stock to higher ground, I'm going to get them away from boggy areas, or I'm going to put my cows onto a loafing pad, or bring them into the shed, or bring them into an area where they can't have too much of an impact on soil quality and soil health. Number 6, replant land left bare as soon as practicable. So this was one of the stickiest rules that Southland farmers in particular had had an issue with. And of course, you know, climates are different. And how can you plan to replant when you know you can't actually get a tractor, you know, over the ground because it's still too wet from winter. So you can definitely plan, but you know, when you actually do the event, when you do the planting event, is a different matter. I'm going to show you how to diarise and schedule planting events in FarmIQ. Number 7, minimise negative impacts on cultural values of Te Mana OTY and Te Haora OTY by minimising sediment, nutrient and pathogen losses. Number 7 basically is all about mitigation and minimising, and it really is all part of a farm environment plan. So you can just dive into your farm environment plan in FarmIQ and put that in the objectives and tasks. That's really easy to do. Number 8, plan for next season to make improvements and meet regulatory requirements. So you can, through your FEP, do a lot of planning. We're gonna plant these paddocks for winter cropping the following season. We're not going to do this. We're going to do that. All that sort of stuff. So you can put your intentions in there, and basically what that will do is provide some evidence to auditors and council people and your farm consultants as well on your intentions for next season. Number 8. Oh no, sorry, I've done number 8. Number 9, plan for next year to ensure you're not planting land for IWG that is too steep. So the rules, even though they're not operative until next year, say that you are not allowed to winter crop slopes greater than 10 degrees. So if that rule does become operative, then you will need to understand which slopes on your paddocks are over 10 degrees and avoid cropping them. You'll be able to get some files from your farm consultant or from your local council around slope degrees and stuff like that. And then at a later webinar, another webinar, I'll show you how to put those in straight into your map in FarmIQ. And then number 10, good animal health and welfare. Maintain good animal health and welfare. That's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? And I will show you. Will I show you briefly? I'm not sure whether I'm going to show you briefly in tonight, but how to record your animal health treatments. But one of the important things tonight, and it comes under a couple of other action points, is recording your mob moves so that you can demonstrate and prove where your stock were and when. So if the auditor comes along and says that paddock's particularly muddy, why is it particularly muddy like that? You can say, well, I didn't have my stock in there last week when we had that big weather event, but I did have them in the week before, and you can prove when they were there with the use of FarmIQ, which is all good. All right, so I am going to run through our top 5s very quickly in FarmIQ. I'm going to turn my camera off, and I'm going to share my screen. Any questions so far before I turn my camera off? Everybody all right there, listening to me blathering away very quickly?
Yeah, no, I think we're all right.
All good? Thanks, Glenn.
A bit of flurry at the end.
All right, I'm going to turn my camera off. I'm going to share my screen. All righty. Cool. All right, can everybody see that? I think you can. Glenn, can you see that?
Yeah,
I'm just double checking.
Good.
Okay, what's the first one on my? It's mob moves, isn't it? On the first one. Well, no, mapping feature group. Sorry. Right. So we want to identify where our critical source areas are on our farm map. Okay, so we might want to put our troughs in there. We might want to put an area that's kind of wet. And here I've got my very pretty super hill country farm up the road here. And so I'm going to show you very quickly how to map a feature, which we're going to call critical source areas. Okay.
Could you click hide down the bottom near the stop sharing?
Hide.
Just covering.
Oh yes, sorry, it is too. Thank you. Thanks for that. All right. So here I have got. Let's just have a look. Here, I've got a bit of a wetland that I don't want my stock to go in, okay? And I'm going to call this a critical source area because I don't want my stock in there, because if my stock get in there, it's going to make it really boggy, and all that sediment and nonsense and E. coli and manure and all sorts is going to flow into this beautiful little stream that I've got going through here. I haven't mapped my streams on this farm yet, but I will do soon. So I'm gonna call this a critical source area. I'm going to show you how to map that. This is really easy, okay? So you're going to go into Draw and Edit in the bottom right-hand corner, and you're going to click there, and you're going to click on Features. And we're going to add a feature group here, okay? And we can add other critical source areas on top of that, but we're going to start with adding the feature group, which we're going to call critical source areas. So when you click on Add Feature Group, it's going to bring you up with this little box here. And I'm going to call it critical source areas, and I'm going to put in there CSAs so that other people know what I'm talking about when if they decide to have a look at my map, or if they need to look at my map. It's not a dot, it's not a line, it's going to be a shape. It's going to be what we call a polygon. And I'm going to give it an orangey color. And I'm going to click Next. Now, the first one, the first critical source area that I'm going to do is this one here, and I'm just going to literally just map it out. I'm pretending this is my critical source area here. There you go. That's mapped it out there. It's given me all the coordinates in here. If you decide that actually, no, that's not quite right there, I'm just going to put another point in there and pull it in. Or you go, oh, no, actually, I'm going to change my mind. A really easy way, a quick and fast way to edit your polygons is actually, I don't want number 7 in there. It is actually a straight line between 8 and 6. I'm just going to bin number 7, and then it goes back to being a straight line. So I'm going to give this CSA a name. I'm going to call it Wetland CSA, and I'm going to save it. Easy peasy. So that is creating a feature group. Now, when I want to go and map another critical source area, and we'll put one in here because this is a big riparian area here. And actually, this is very steep here. And the driveway comes off here, and quite often, if you get a big weather event, the water will run straight down here, straight across the driveway, down the hill and into this little stream. So I'm going to call this a critical source area as well. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to find my critical source areas. There's the feature group that I started earlier, if you can all see that. Yeah. I'm going to click on that. And now I'm going to create a new one. So it brings you up a little box here. I've already got my wetland CSA, one that I did earlier, one I baked earlier, and I'm going to add another one to this critical source area feature group. So I'm going to put it in here below this driveway. I'm going to pull that out of it. And I'll just say it's kind of that shape. The cool thing about creating feature groups is you can go across paddock fence lines. I'm going to go, yep, that's cool. That's a cool CSA there. I'm going to save it. And away I go. Well, hang on a minute. I didn't name it properly. So it's named it for me. Critical source area is number 2. I didn't give it a proper name in there, but you can do. You can go back if you want to give it a proper name. I'm going to go below driveway CSA. Wherever you see a little pencil in the FarmIQ is where you can go in and edit or find out more about that piece of functionality. All right, so that's really easy. That's how you're gonna map your CSAs. Now what I want to do is I want to show these to an auditor that I've mapped my CSAs. So I'm clicking out of Draw and Edit. So it was the little cross button down there, and I'm going to click Layers. I'm going to turn those 2 off. I'm going to click on the arrow next to Features. It's the only layer that I want to bring up. I might want to print it out. I might want to share it with somebody. There it is, critical source areas. And if I click that layer on and zoom out, you'll be able to see them both in there. And that will also give me a total area of those CSAs there. Was that sufficient enough? Are you all confident now with drawing features and CSAs? Cool. I'm getting some yeses and some thank yous. That's cool. Awesome.
That's good.
So you can also map troughs, and you can also map waterways with lines. This is really easy as well. So when we go into, here's one I've got earlier. Have I added any troughs? Yes, I have. So I've added troughs in here, and I've given them a number. And the reason that we give them a number is we give them the paddock name and then the number of the trough, because there might be more than one trough in a paddock. We give them a number so that if I'm sending a member of staff out to fix a trough or check a trough or clean a trough, then I can say go out to C2 bar 3, and they'll know exactly on the map where C2 bar 3 trough is, and they can head out there without dilly-dallying on the way. So that's all really easy. But literally, when you want to add a new trough, I've already set the feature group up as a point, and so I can just add troughs wherever I like. And I'm pretty sure that auditors will want to see where the troughs are in your winter grazing paddocks. I think that might be enough for features. Is that enough for features, Glenn?
Yeah, no, that's good.
That's enough? Right, okay. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. And now we are going to move into mob moves, because I've got a slide I'm going to show you in the mob moves. Oh, where's it gone? Hang on. I stopped sharing, didn't I? Hang on a minute, slides. Sorry. Yeah, put that there. I haven't done one of these for a while. Recording mob moves and taking photos. Okay, so you're going to do this on your phone. And the reason that you want to record your mob moves on your winter grazing paddocks is to be able to say to auditors and regulators and whoever comes up your driveway, this is where my cows were, or this is where my stock were at this time, and it populates into the calendar really easily, so you can demonstrate and you can prove where your stock were. And you can even take photos. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to put my camera back on, because I'm going to show you how to do it very briefly on my phone. All right. So you're going to open your You're going to open your phone app, and you're going to go to the stock tab. Okay. And you're going to click on move stock, which is the top left-hand corner. And then you just scroll through, choose your paddock that you're going to move your animals to, follow all the prompts, fill in all the tabs and the drop downs, and then when you get to the last page, you will see here one of these little buttons here on your thing. It says take a picture, and you are going to take a picture of the mob move as well. So it might be the mob. You might take a picture of moving the mob down the slope into a new break, so you can actually demonstrate that you are moving your stock down, you're grazing them and back fencing down the slope. So take a picture. The more evidence that you can file into FarmIQ for auditors, the easier your life will be. And I can't stress how important that is. So take a picture. And now I'm going to show you what that looks like, what that will look like in FarmIQ. So I'm just going to turn my camera off again. Hang on. Share my screen again. Share. Cool. Everybody can see my screen, I hope. I'll hide that bit there.
Just clarifying, mob moves is only available on the performance and enterprise pack. So
yes, sorry, not on everyday. Have we got any everyday users? If you could just tell us if you're an everyday user as well, because there are a couple of tips that we might be able to help you with for everyday users.
If you feel like upgrading, get in touch.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. You're on a sales role, Glenn. All right, so here is my farm. Now I just want to see where my stock are. So I'm going to click my mobs on, turn my features off now. I don't need to see them anymore. Oh, look, I've got 2 cows in here and this little wee paddock here. This is a real not hobby farm, play farm. So these stock aren't really in there, but they are for this purpose. So I'm going to show you what your mob move that you did on your phone in the phone app looks like now. So you're going to go up to your calendar. And here's one I did earlier. So I moved 2 animals. Their names were Grayson and Heidi, by the way. I moved 2 animals, and if you click on that event, it will bring you up all the details. So I moved my mixed age Angus cows called Grayson and Heidi from A2 Sharon paddock into 12 Grace Folly paddock. Okay, so that's all the details of the event there. This is really important for auditors. And down here is the image that I took when I moved them. And if I scroll down, you can see I wasn't out in the paddock. I was actually preparing this webinar here. So that's the photo that I took, and it automatically attached it to that event. So when an auditor comes knocking, you can say, well, I moved my stock here from this break or whatnot down the paddock, and I put them here. And I took a photo of the state of the paddock after I'd moved them. So you can see that there was no pugging, that, there was still some, really good pasture cover or it wasn't too muddy. It was looking great. And my cows were all super happy. You take a photograph and they go, oh, yeah, that's awesome. So that is mob moves and taking photos. Is everybody happy there? I hope so. In FarmIQ, every event that you record will pop up in the calendar. I'm right in saying that, aren't I, Glenn?
Yeah. So if it comes to an audit and you need to find something particular, up in the top left near the calendar, you can filter it. And so you can drill down to the exact mob you want to be finding events for or anything else.
So if you want to filter, you just click on the little hamburger I call up here. And here are all your categories, and then you can filter away to your heart's content through here, and then it'll bring up just the events that you're filtering on, if you like.
Trick with that is just to go uncheck all at the start, and then just tick the ones that you want to find. Hamish Scott asked a question: could you attach a photo and record it if you put up a back fence?
Could you attach a photo and record it if you put up a back fence? Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. So when you put that back fence up, take a photo of putting that back fence up or the location of that back fence, and then attach it to that mob move, or you can even in general land activity in the app as well. I might be going down a bit of a rabbit hole here. Glenn, I'm right, you can do a general land activity, can't you?
Yeah, and you do general and more activities.
So if your animals have been in the paddock for a couple of days or whatnot, and you've already done your mob move to put them into that paddock, and you want to attach more photos of moving them, down through your breaks, record it under so in the stock menu under general event, and just follow the prompts, and then I'm pretty sure you can, if you just follow the prompts, continue, it'll give you take a picture option at the end, at the bottom of that screen as well. So you can record a general event and you can call it whatever you want to call it, and you can kind of, and then it will populate into your calendar as well. So you can say back fenced blah 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 and then it'll populate on the day and the time that you did it. I hope that makes sense, Hamish. Robert Y has got a question as well. If you are not moving stock from one paddock to the next, but just a break shift, could you do as a general? Yeah. I think we answered that, Robert, and you have kind of answered it for us too. Sorry, I should have read your question first. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Any questions about mob moves, anything like that? All good there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. And then I'm going to go back to slides. Whoop, here we go. All right, recording. Is everybody all right with that? Let us know if you're not. I was going to say, if you've got questions, then please let us know. Glenn, you're going to get in touch with our everyday users, aren't you? We've got, yeah, that's cool. A couple have popped up there. That's neat. Thank you for that. Okay, recording feeding out, what, when and where. Why would you do that? The reason that you would record what, when and where you're feeding out is that if you are feeding out, say, baleage into to supplement your winter crop, your cows on your winter crop, then the auditors and regulators want to know that you're kind of not feeding near troughs, you're not feeding onto mud where it's just going to cause a lot more pugging and a lot more runoff and phosphorus and E. coli and all that sort of nonsense as well. And also recording what you feed out and when will also support and contribute to your animal welfare records as well. I am actually feeding my cows, when it's cold, or I'm giving them extra baleage, even though they're on turnips or something like that. So I'm going to quickly whip you through that and FarmIQ. There's a couple of ways that you can do it. The everyday users, you would use a general land activity or a general stock activity. And it would just populate into the calendar. And now I'm just going to share my screen again. Backwards and forwards. Can everybody see that? I hope you can. Okay, so we're back in our old screen now. So recording feeding out. Now you can do this two ways. You can do it under land activity. So recording where you're putting stuff and taking feed from your inventory, or you can do it through stock. So my favorite way is doing it through stock. I think, Glenn, is that your favorite way as well?
Yeah. So I'd only use land for recording and harvesting events, like if you're adding feed to your inventory. But when you come to feeding it out, do it in the stock tab. So,
yeah, cool. So we're going to go up to stock. And we're going to move all the way across to health and feeding. And we're going to go down to supplementary feeding here. We've got another webinar on supplementary feeding coming, don't we?
Yeah, I think it might be next month. I think I'll be taking that one.
Out for that. That's you're taking that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Very good. Keep an eye on that, people. All right, so supplementary feeding. So here you can select by mob or by paddock. And for the purposes of intensive winter grazing plan and recording, I'm going to suggest that you do it by paddock. So you can select your feed out date. So say I'm going to do it tomorrow, and tomorrow, continue. There we are. Feed out date here. Early morning is fine. I do all the things early morning, obviously, because I'm a farmer. I'm going to select
a little trick which you can do once you select your paddock. You can go click multi-day. So if you're feeding out, let's say maybe over a month, you might feed out 5 bales or something. So you'd chuck that in your calendar. This allows you to select multiple days.
Right. Do you think that's the best way to do it, Glenn? Select multi-day?
Well, it can save, especially if you're feeding out heaps, you might be feeding out a bale a day, so you might just want to quickly chuck in 5 in one event. So
yeah, indeed. We've got a question here from Nick. Can you do calendar in blocks instead of clicking individual days on a multi?
No. So currently, you have to click individual days.
And in your paddocks, select your paddocks. So I am going to say I'm going to feed out in Grace Folly, and I'm just going to push that across there. So I can select multiple paddocks. And these are the stock that are in the paddock that we spoke about earlier, my 2 mixed age Angus cows called Grayson and Heidi. And I'm going to select my feed type here. Baleage, you can select more than, if I'm feeding out baleage and PKE or maize silage or whatever, then, you know, my animal's having a smorgasbord, then you can just select more than one feed type up here, and it'll just give you another box to populate. I'll go back to
Dave asked a question. Can you do that for feeding an oats crop? I think you could, Dave, but so it has to be in your inventory. So you could, if you knew the rough kilograms of dry matter of that crop, you could add it into your inventory, and then if you know how much you're feeding every day, like when you do your breaks, you could do it like that if you wanted to.
Yeah. But you have to put it into your inventory first, which is really easy to do. And there are some pretty good online help videos to do that. But if you get stuck, Dave, then just give the customer support team a call and they can talk you through doing that as well. So, but if you've got grain, you know, if you've got oats in a grain form, if you like, you can, these are the selections of feeding out feed in here. So I'm going to select some baleage. I'm going to call it baleage. I can put a batch number in there as well if, you know, if that's important to me. I'm going to feed out, what would I feed out to my 2 cows? 150 kilos?
Yeah, way bit.
I've got a BCS of 6.5. So I'm going to put in how much I've fed out there. I can also put in if I'm keeping a tally of my costs. Now, actually, just thinking about it, Canterbury farmers, if I've got any of you on board tonight, then do record costs, because if the government ends up giving Canterbury farmers some kind of funding relief for feed budgeting or feed or whatever, you might need to put this sort of detail into an application form for that funding. So the more that you can record for what you feed out or your feed requirements, the better. That's great, because you can kind of prove that you need to feed out this much at this particular time. In here, you can attach any files that you've got lurking on your computer or in your file library that might, you know, that would be relevant to that, but otherwise you're just going to click save.
Mark asked if you're feeding the same every day, can you enter it to repeat? And unfortunately that is a no, so you kind of got to do one multi-day event at a time. You unfortunately can't have it repeating. Like
a repeated thing, but can you do a planned event and then convert it?
I don't know if you can for supplementary feeding. If you just go back into it quickly.
Stock, health and feeding, supplementary feeding. By product.
Yeah, nah, I don't.
There isn't a. Yeah, there's only the multi-day function. Yeah. Sorry, Mark. Multi-day, but you could actually go. But you can choose. You can kind of plan, because the feed out date is. You can select any of these. So I'm going to feed out on the 23rd. So you can actually sit there and plan it if you like.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm going to go up to, I'll show you where that shows up in the calendar now. Here we go. I've got feeding 2 animals. So for auditing purposes, you click on that event and Boyakasha. There it is. All the details of my feeding out. Okay. Yes, Canterbury farmers do record everything you possibly can. That's feeding out. What's next on the list?
Recording planting events.
Recording planting events. Cool. Any questions about feeding out? Any more questions about feeding out?
Mark, so can you show how the multi-day function works? Okay, so I'll just quickly describe it. So if you click on the multi-day, select that, and then you click on the calendar, and then you have to select the days. So you can click on multiple days, and then it will average the amount of baleage which you enter across those days. So
feed out days.
Like that. You select 5 days. You're doing roughly 1 bale a day.
I'm not going to feed them on Sundays. I'm only going to feed them those days. Okay. So you can click your multi-days there, Mark, and away you go. And hang on a minute, I'm going to select my paddock. I'm going to select my paddocks, and boom, away I go. And if I want to select multiple paddocks, then I just move those over. And they're all over, or all back. Up to you entirely, okay? So it really is just a case of doing a few clickety clicks, and that's all in there. Does that help you, Mark? I hope that we've answered that question. Sorry, Glenn, remind me what we're doing?
Planting events.
Planting and harvesting. Planting?
Yeah.
Planting events.
Should we do this from the map?
We can do this from the map, or we can do it from the thing. Yeah. Cool. All right, let's do it from the map. You can plan or record planting events either from the map or from land. So you can kind of get in with two doors. There's a front door and a side door. Oh, hang on a minute. I was going to find my real farm. Where's it gone? It's disappeared. There we are. Okay, so I am going to plant all this farm is steeper than the side of a chicken's face, so I'm not really planting it. This one looks the flattest on the map. All right, so you're going to see you're going to bring your farm map up, and you're going to right click on the paddock that you are going to plant, and you are going to select, which one am I doing? Hang on a minute.
Cropping.
Cropping, of course it is. I couldn't see it then. I don't have my glasses on properly. All right. So you're going to click on cropping. And when it wants to, it's going to bring up the... Can you all see that screen? I hope so.
Yep.
Cool. So I'm going to click my planting date, or I'm going to select my planting date now. You can, up here in the top right corner, I've got record planting and I've got plan my planting. If I'm recording a planting... If I'm recording planting, then it generally means that it's happened, that the event has happened, and now I'm just recording that event because it's happened. Or I can plan my planting, and then when you plan your planting, it slides it into the calendar on the date that you're planning to do it, and then when it's been done, you can then go back in and convert it and say yes, it's actually happened on that date. Or you can edit it and kind of go, no, we had a massive rain event. So I didn't actually get to plant until 2 weeks later, and then you can change the date in your calendar to those dates. So if we go into record planting, I'm going to click the date that I've planted. I'm going to select the area that I have planted. So in this case, it's the cultivatable area. I'm going to select by paddock. You can select by block. So if you're doing blocks, you can select by block as well. That kind of, yes, for farmers who are planting by blocks, that's a nice handy piece of functionality there. I'm going to select the paddock that I've selected via my map will automatically come up, but then I might think, oh, actually 2 hectares isn't enough. I'm going to chuck the driveway in as well. Not really, but it will give me the total area, and this is what I'm going to plant it. I'm going to resow it back to pasture. So it gives you the options here. I'm going to click on pasture. I can select a seed mix or an individual cultivar, and I'm just going to go through and fill in all these drop-down details. So where did the seed come from? What was the product? If there was one there, I can put a batch number in, all that sort of thing, which is, yeah, it's important if you are wanting to record a level of detail that will really have your back if there's an adverse weather event and half your crop, just as it's germinated, gets washed down the hill, and you need to claim off some insurance to be able to do that. You've got the evidence here and a really high level of detail to be able to put in your insurance claim or give to an auditor or what have you. Here's all my costs, and you're literally going to save all that. So hang on, let's put product. I'm going to put some in there. What did I do? I did a precision drill. How about that? And I put in, what did I put in?
20.
20 kilos a hectare?
Yep.
That's quite a lot. In it goes. My product cost, other details cost, I'm going to say,
Is the cropping available in every day from Georgie? I was just going to check, but I'm pretty sure it's not.
No, it's not, but you would put it under general land activity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can still record what you plant and where with, but just in notes under general land activity. Actually, I'll show you guys how to do that in a sec. I'm going to click on save. And that planting event has happened. And now I'm going to literally whiz back up to my calendar. And hey presto, I've done a lot today, haven't I? I've put my cropping application in there. If I double click it, here's all the data. So when you get an order to come out, and it's got a picture of the map as well, where I planted, with what, when, how. If you get an order to come out, or an auditor comes out, the main part of FarmIQ that you can show them through is the calendar. You'll be able to give them all the details through the calendar. Now, everyday users, general land activity. I'm going to click on land. I'm going to go to applications. I'm in an enterprise pack in this screen here. So you everyday users, you'll have less options here, but you will have general land activity. So if you click on that, my internet's a bit slow tonight. It's going to be the same sort of screen, same sort of deal. I'm going to choose whatever it is. I'm going to select my paddock, where it goes. I'm going to put in my my description now. So planted. What did I plant? 20 kilos?
Yes.
20 kilos hectare of rye clover.
So the main difference between everyday and performance packs is because the form's a bit more rigid, because everyday is kind of like a diary version and performance is more of like you record what you actually did. And that allows us to pull some more precise reports from it. So, I can get in touch tomorrow and chat about it if you're interested. Yeah.
So, you just get activity details everyday users, and that is absolutely fine for auditing purposes. So, don't have FOMO. Although Glenn won't be very happy with me if I say. No, he's trying to get you all upgrade. But here we go. I'm going to put in here $20. I'm going to just fill that out, and I'm going to click save. And then that too, as a general land activity, will show up in my calendar as a general land application. Okay, so that's it's the same thing. It's the same event. It's just a different detail and a different title, if that makes sense. Everybody all right with recording planting events? Yes? Good. What's next, Glenn?
Setting objectives and tasks.
Oh, setting objectives, one of my favorites. Okay, so I'm gonna keep trucking on. Is everybody all right with all of that? And are you still with me? Got some questions. Nick says it would be good to have a function with a one date to an end date rather than clicking each day. Yes, it would. Is cropping feature available every day? When in recording a planting, there is not an option for regen event. No, Sally, there isn't. They're not a regen planting, but you can, if you know what's in your seed mix, you can record into your inventory what's in your seed mix. And then when you plant from the inventory in your seed mix. Am I right, Glenn? Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. So you would record in your inventory the type of seed that you're doing, And sorry, I'm just going to scoot back out to my farm again. There we go. I hope that answers your question, Sally. But yeah, so you do need to put your seed mix into your inventory. And I think that's pretty easy to do. Yeah. Sorry, Glenn, what am I doing?
Objectives and tasks quickly.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I forgot my favourite bit. Right, okay, so you're going to click on land, and we're going to go into the environment plan. So setting your objectives and tasks in your environment plan is super, super easy. I'm going to take you there now. If you haven't started your FEP in FarmIQ, I urge you to just have a little fossick around in there before you go to bed tonight, because it's actually my favourite part of FarmIQ, naturally. Okay, so we're going to go straight to objectives. So in the objectives part of a farm environment plan, it's basically a part of the plan where it says, okay, what are you going to do to mitigate the risks to water quality, pathogens entering water, greenhouse gases, all those things that come and fall under mitigation or reduction purposes in your farm environment plan. So we at FarmIQ have got a very comprehensive objective section here, which is actually quite cool. So we've got all the categories down the side here, and these all relate to your risk assessment. So the first part of doing a farm environment plan is doing a stock take, if you like, on your farm of what you've got, how your farm business sits within its environment and the impacts that it has on its environment. So you're going to do a risk assessment first. And then if I dive back to objectives, all these here relate to how you have assessed your risk. Now for intensive winter grazing, I'm trying not to digress here, but for intensive winter grazing, you can set your objectives under general management or nutrient management even. There's a few categories that you can do them under here, even waterway and wetland management. But I'm going to suggest to you that for IWG, you set your objectives under general management. So you literally just click on that tab there, and then it'll bring you up a whole bunch of little boxes like this. There are three categories of setting objectives: new, ongoing, and completed in your farm environment plan. I'm going to set a new objective, okay, and I'm going to set it so that it directly relates to my intensive winter grazing plan. So I'm going to click on add another action, and I'm going to put in here, one of MFE's top 10 actions that they want, and I'm going to say graze my stock down the slope and back fence. Easy. I'm going to save that now, and it's going to pop up in my new category here. Here it is here. I can put it on the top so it's easier to see. I can move it. That's pretty cool. And now I've created that objective. Now I'm going to set a date for it. Okay. So I'm going to set a date for when my stock, are kind of going to be in that paddock, and I can assign that to a staff member who might be managing that herd or that mob. I might not be there, or it might be their job to do that. Okay. So I'm going to put in here IWG. I'm going to give it a name, sorry, IWG grade stock down slope and back fence. I'm going to assign it to a staff member. I'm going to give it to myself, and then I'm going to give it a date. So I'm going to start that grazing, and I've effectively set a task. Is this task required for environmental compliance? I'm going to click yes, because when you click that, it shows up in a filter in your calendar. So when you have certified farm environment planners or auditors coming along, you can filter to that environmental compliance filter, and it'll bring you up all the bits and pieces in your calendar that relate to that. Here I can add checklists. I can add files from, photos or pictures or whatever you like from here. You might want to, if you're allocating these tasks to people other than yourself, you might want to attach the handout that you can download from this session. You can do whatever you like. I'm going to set a checklist now. I'm going to say remember or take two reels and at least 40 standards. Okay, easy. I can add more checklists, check things in here. I can attach files to it. I can bin it. I can set it as a compulsory checklist type thing. And I'm going to save that now. And what that does now is it fires it through to the calendar. So if we click on the calendar, there it is. So it's an incomplete task, but it's showing in my calendar that I have set that task to mitigate those problems for my intensive winter grazing. And what I would highly suggest to you when you're setting tasks against your objectives in your FEP for IWG, that you start the task description with IWG, so that's really easy to find. And if I clicked on that now, if I'm an auditor, I'm going to look at that and I go, oh yeah, that's cool. You did that on June the 3rd. That's all fantastic. You're onto it. This is brilliant. And you even told your staff member to remember to take 2 reels out. Fantastic stuff. Another
thing is your staff members can complete these tasks on the mobile app.
So this will pop up. This will pop up on their phone as a task that's been assigned to them, and then they complete it. They can complete it on their phone when they're out there. All good?
Yep.
What next?
That's it, Alison.
Oh, my word. Oh, look, and oh my gosh, I thought we were going to be a bit faster than that. I've been blathering a bit.
No, that's
right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm just going to go very quickly back to the Prezzo. Make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Setting objectives and tasks. Thank you very much. Oh, here's a little. I think you'll all be sent this recording afterwards, but you can. Stephen, our super duper marketing guy, will also send you a copy of the slides as well. I believe. I think he will. And away you go. So there is a little thing on recording mob moves and taking photos, because this is in the phone app. And how else can we help you? That's the last slide. So I'll put my camera back on. Better be a little more social. Thank you, everyone. If you haven't downloaded our Essential Guide to Intensive Winter Grazing resource, then please do. And there is also FEP Getting Started Guide, which is a really great resource. We wrote it about a year ago. It's just, it's really, really brilliant to help get you started. And don't forget to join the FarmIQ user group on Facebook if you're not a member already. There are regular Tuesday night sessions, like Q&A sessions that you can ask questions on. And one of the business managers will, regularly presents on Facebook. It's also a really good forum to be able to kind of ask questions of other other FarmIQ users as well. All right. Ashley says, does it come a completed task in the diary once complete? In the diary once complete, yes. Yeah. You have to convert it, I believe, or well, not convert it, but you have to. The person who the task is assigned to clicks it that it's been done, and then it says it's complete. But it does need somebody to do that. Yeah. Margaret says, thanks, very helpful. Oh, thank you, Margaret. That's cool. Stephen, our GM marketing, says he's going to send the recording and the slides out to you all. Thank you, Stephen. And Sally says, great. Oh, awesome. I love you all. And where can you find links to past webinars? I think they're on YouTube.
On our website, actually.
Our website.
So if you go on the FarmIQ website, And then under resource support on the right-hand side in video library, you can filter down to webinars from there. So.
Stephen might be able to send a link, mightn't you, Stephen, to that bit of the website. But we have done, we did last year, we did a series of FEP webinars, farm environment planning webinars. They were short and they were sharp, and lots and lots of really cool information in there. We kind of broke it down into 3 sessions. So some really neat stuff in there. So go and, have a look at that for more resources. Mark says, thank you, useful session. Oh, lovely. And Katie says, thank you, very helpful, clear and useful. Oh, good. That's awesome. I'm stoked that you could all make it. And any questions, give us a bell or email us. And if you've got any gnarly questions about intensive winter grazing, then do fire them through to me. And I will do my very best to help you. But I think you've all successfully missed 7 sharp. Not such a bad thing. I wish you all good night and thanks very much for coming.
Okay, see you guys.
See you.